Good afternoon. I'm here with Liz Kettle of Stitch Meditations, and she's going to share with us a little bit about her background, her technique, and her artistry. Welcome, Liz.
Hi, thank you for having me. I've always been an artist, and I think most people who make art say that, but I firmly believe that everyone's an artist too. So I've always been a maker, and even when I was a little kid, just always wanted to make stuff. And at a very young age, I had an affinity for fabric. I was the kid in the middle of the carousel at the clothing store. My mom could never find me because I was just touching all the fabrics. I just always loved fabric. And I started off with more utility sewing. I was always sewing clothes or curtains, or I've done just about everything except sails for boats, because I didn't know anybody who asked with a boat to ask me. But for a while though, textiles really have not been considered an art form. They're just, we think of them as very utilitarian, very functional things. The closest you could get to it was with quilting, and I did start quilting in my mid-20s, and I loved it, but I also didn't love it because you have to be so precise, and I'm just no good at precise. So I did quilt for quite a few years, and but then I got really bored with it. It was just too it's so competitive. You know, everything had to be perfect, and I felt so stifled. So then I kind of went into the mixed media world and fell in love with paint and paper and all that stuff. Pattern making, I loved stamping and carving stamps and printing on fabrics, any kind of printing techniques. And then I kind of got bored with it because I was missing the fabric. So I came back to fabric, and but came kind of finally, you know, some of it's maturity. Kind of get to an age where you're like, I'm just going to do what I want to do and not worry about the rest of the world. And it takes a while to get there. I wish I'd had that in my 20s. So I just started taking some of the stuff and the freedom in mixed media and brought it back to my textile work. So that's kind of how I ended up in doing a lot of collage. And in the last probably 7 years, I've really started moving towards more of a minimalist approach, a little bit less obvious connections, trying to express feelings and emotions and ideas and thoughts with color or texture rather than something really more concrete, you know, more imagery driven. So that's kind of how I ended up being more abstract as the textile person. And I have to tell you, it's kind of a hard place to be. It's people don't really get it. They're like, is that a quilt? Or is that, what is that? Especially some of my bigger wall pieces that are all stitched. So they're pretty minimal, so people don't really know what to do with them. But I also, about 7 years ago, well actually, yeah, it was 6 years ago, I needed to change what I was doing in my life because I had a lot of stress and was very sick. And so I started trying to meditate, and it really didn't work for me to meditate. It was just too foreign a thing. I just didn't relate to my lifestyle or my way of being, and I couldn't ever get into it. It was stressing me out to try and meditate, which is kind of the opposite of what you want.
Right.
So I had just finished writing a book all about thread. The book is called Threads, Basics and Beyond, and it was all about machine stitching. So I was kind of done with the sewing machine for a while because it's so intensive when you're writing a book. It's just, you're always at the machine. So I went back to my hand stitching roots and kind of went, oh wow, this is so calming and relaxing. And I felt myself every time I started hand stitching slipping so easily into my right brain and slipping into that meditative state. So that's how I kind of came up with this process that I call stitch meditations.
And you do one every single day, don't you?
Just about.
Just about.
This week has been really bad.
Yeah.
It was such a busy week. I didn't get it. And you know, I posted today that, boy, I missed 3 days, and I get discombobulated and I don't feel grounded when I don't do them every day, because it's just a way to start my day in calm and mindfulness and creativity.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing, Liz.
Thanks. And you can find out more about me and my work at my website, which is textileevolution.com.
Thank you, Liz.